welcome. Welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is an update on the latest in the Alec Murdaugh saga. Today is January 30th, so yesterday, January 29th, there was a hearing for it was an evidentiary hearing to determine or find out if Alec would get a new trial based on some jury tampering allegations that were against Becky Hill. So he, spoiler alert, he was denied a new trial. I can't deny the fact because it's right there in the title. So he was denied a new trial yesterday after all the jurors were questioned and after Becky was questioned, and there was another clerk of court that came to the stand who was a witness, and let's get into it. So here you can see Alec Murdaugh is back in court. This is an article by the Associated Press. Alec Murdaugh is denied a new trial after a judge hears jury tampering allegations. So let's begin. A South Carolina judge denied Alec Murdaugh's bid for a new double unaliving trial on Monday after his defense team accused a clerk of court with tampering with a jury. Judge Jean Toal ruled that even if Colleton County Clerk Becky Hill did tell jurors to watch Murdaugh's actions and body language on the stand, the defense failed to prove that such comments directly influenced their decision to find him guilty. Hold that thought, because a juror that is questioned, the very first juror that's questioned on Monday, does say that she was influenced by Becky Hill's comments. So how she found this, how Judge Toal found this, I still don't get it. Maybe she just didn't find that juror credible, but with everything else on top of it, you have to grant this man a new trial. Pretend Alec Murdaugh isn't Alec Murdaugh, and it is just a blank nobody sitting there. You don't know that person. You don't know their crimes. They should still be given a fair trial. If it was you or a family member that were in the situation that you found out after the trial that the clerk of court was tampering with the jury, you would absolutely want a new trial. You would deserve a new trial. And I'm on the side here that no matter what you think of Alec, I do not think that the prosecution proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Alec committed the crimes. He admitted to all the financial crimes, but that does not make you someone that unalives your family out of the blue. Now, he might have done it. I don't know. I don't know personally. I would love to know the details of, the specifics of what happened that day. But unfortunately, we only have the word of Alec and the data, which I still don't think proves beyond a reasonable doubt. But regardless, he deserves a new trial because there was jury tampering, and he might be found guilty again. It doesn't, just because of the fact that he deserves a new trial doesn't mean that the guilty verdict goes away. It just means he deserves to be given the right that we are all given in this country, a jury of your peers, to decide your fate and to not be persuaded or guided to vote in one way or another, especially by an elected official. Which also I heard she can't even be removed. They can't remove her from office because she's an elected official, which I find just baffling. She should not be working anymore. I wouldn't want her as the clerk of court if I was on trial anywhere. I wouldn't want her anywhere near my trial or my family or whoever it is. It doesn't matter what it's for, guilty or not. I just think that all the things that Becky did were baffling. And I think there's just too much there to say it's a coincidence or to give her easy excuses away that she did on the stand, like, oh no, I just say that to everybody, just pay attention. When everybody clearly said, pay attention to his body language, don't be fooled. So, I don't know. Anyways, let's keep going. So Toal said after reviewing the full transcript of the 6-week trial, no, I don't want your stuff. After um after reviewing the full transcript of the 6-week trial that took place last year, she couldn't overturn the verdict based, quote, on the strength of some fleeting and foolish comments by a publicity-seeking clerk of court, end quote. So she found Becky Hill, the clerk, to be not credible. She even said flat out, I don't find her to be that credible. And she was publicity seeking. She definitely said some things because it's apparent, she said these foolish comments, as Judge Toal puts it. I don't think foolish comments is quite harsh enough, because what she did was interfere with our justice system. And it could have been you, it could have been me. What if you were on that jury and you heard that or saw that? It affects you. So Toal said after reviewing the full I just read that, right? Yeah, I just read that one. Okay, so one member of the jury that convicted Murdaugh of ending his wife and son testified that Hill made the comments and it indicated to her that she thought Murdaugh was guilty. But the 11 other jurors said that they based their guilty verdicts only on the testimony, evidence, and law presented at trial, and just one of them mentioned hearing anything similar. Okay, so what? All 11 didn't hear her? And let's say that they didn't. Let's say none, I'm sorry, one other of the 11 heard Becky say something, but 10 didn't. That's fine. Just the fact that she said it and 2 people heard her is enough, in my opinion, that a new trial should be warranted. Just the fact that they heard her. It's not right. It's not, it's prejudicial to the defendant, and I don't like it. I don't like when people's rights are trampled, no matter who you are. It's infuriating to me. All right, so quote, I find that the clerk of court was not completely credible as a witness. Miss Hill was attracted by the siren call of celebrity, end quote, Toal said, issuing her decision at the end of a day-long hearing. So it came at the very end of the day yesterday. But they actually have 3 full days that they allotted to this particular hearing. So there was no need to rush. There was no need to deny Juror Z to come back and clarify her testimony, because that happened. I don't know. I feel sickened by what the justice system is becoming, or always has been. I don't know. I've never paid this close attention before. So anyways, all 12 jurors answered mostly yes or no questions from the judge's script. Murdaugh, now a convicted felon, disbarred attorney, and admitted thief, serving a life sentence, wore an orange prison suit. Okay, that's not news. We don't care what he wore. Hill also testified, denying she ever spoke about the case or Hill at all with jurors. Quote, I never talked to any jurors about anything at all, or anything like that. Hill said, I don't believe her. I don't believe her. She was not credible to me. But Judge Jean Toal questioned her truthfulness after Hill said she used literary license, or literary ease, I also heard her say, for some things that she wrote in the book on the trial, including whether she feared as she read the verdict that the jury might end up finding him not guilty. So she admitted in her book that she was scared the jury was going to find him not guilty, and meaning she believes he's guilty, wants a guilty verdict, whatever it is, she has a motive for a guilty verdict. And so when she was questioned by that, Hill said on the stand, I quote, I did have a certain way I felt, end quote, about Alec's guilt or innocence. So, I mean, and that's not a problem. She can feel those things. She can have those conversations outside of the courthouse, but she's the clerk of court. She shouldn't be talking about those things within earshot or anywhere near where a juror could be, let alone saying it to a juror directly. So, all right, so Murdaugh's defense later called Barnwell County Clerk Rhonda McIlveen, who helped Hill during the trial. McIlveen said that Hill suggested before the trial that they should write a book on the case together, quote, because she wanted a lake house and I wanted to retire, end quote, and that a guilty verdict would sell more books. So there you have it again. A guilty verdict is her motive. But under cross-examination, McIlveen said she didn't reach out to the trial judge because she didn't think any of Hill's comments or behaviors rose to the level of misconduct. So, I think, and the reason why other jurors didn't say anything up until this point, I really think that people don't want to get other people in trouble. They don't want to police their fellow man. I mean, when you give them that power and tell them they can do it, yeah, a lot of people take it on and go way too far. But for the most part, we don't want to interfere. We don't want to intervene. At least that's kind of my perception of it. People may have seen things and questioned it and kind of thought, well, that's borderline, but I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get her in trouble, or you just shrug it off because you want to think the best in people. You don't want to think that they're doing these nefarious things, like trying to tamper with a jury. But it happens. All right, so Hill was also questioned about why she was telling people hours before the jury received the case that she expected deliberations to be short. The clerk said it was a gut feeling after years in a courtroom. I was watching Peter Tragos, Lawyer earlier, and he's like, I don't care how many years of courtroom experience you have, you never can predict the outcome or the speediness or lack of speediness of a verdict. You can never predict what a jury is going to do. And that is one of the great things and one of the difficult things about our justice system. The unusual hearing was prompted in part by a sworn statement from the first juror called to the stand Monday. She affirmed, so Juror Z, she affirmed what she said last August, repeating Monday that Hill told jurors to note Murdaugh's actions and, quote, watch him closely, end quote, when he testified in his own defense. She made it seem like he was already guilty, said the woman, identified only as Juror Z. Asked whether this influenced her vote to find him guilty, she said, yes, ma'am. Right there. New trial. I'm just baffled. But anyways, later questioning, the juror said she also stands by another statement she made in the August affidavit that it was her fellow jurors more than the clerk's statements. That's not what she said. This person who is relaying it is saying that it influenced her more, because she never said anything influenced her more or less, or that they both influenced her, because she wasn't asked that question. She was only asked if the clerk of court's statements influenced her. She said yes. Then she was asked about an affidavit where she mentioned that the jury kind of swayed her, made her vote the way she did. And so Judge Toal asked, well, is it this or is it this? Not giving her an option in the middle, saying both can be true. So I find it very problematic that we still didn't get to the bottom of it with Juror Z. And Juror Z left the stand and I guess was behind the scenes or outside of the courtroom was telling the attorneys, I want to go back on the stand. I want to clarify some things. And Judge Toal would not let her, which I also think is a wrong ruling. This ruling I thought was supposed to get to the bottom of everything, but I still have a lot of questions. All right, so, quote, I had questions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt, but voted guilty because I felt pressured by other jurors, end quote, she said. But she could also be pressured by Becky. Or not pressured, but swayed by Becky's comments. They can both be true. The rest of the jury filed in one by one and said that their verdicts weren't influenced by anything outside the trial. One said he heard that Hill say, quote, watch his body language, end quote, before Murdaugh testified, but said that Hill's comments didn't change his mind. Quote, what matters is what the jurors heard, end quote, and whether that persuaded them to change their verdicts to guilty in a way that was anything other than the product of honest deliberation, prosecutor Creighton Waters said in a closing. Quote, you have 11 of them, strong as a rock, who said this verdict was not influenced. The evidence is overwhelming from the people who mattered, end quote. So, juror number 12 didn't matter? Egg Lady didn't matter? The jurors that didn't deliberate, they don't matter? I mean, F you, Creighton. I don't like that comment, but only the 11 jurors who agreed with us, the state, those are the ones who mattered. So let's listen to them. My God, this is really happening in courts today. Let's just say that. So defense attorney Jim Griffin, in his closing, cited case law in arguing that any communication about a case from court staff to jurors is presumptively prejudicial. He said that the defense clearly proved Hill made prejudicial comments to the jury and, quote, one of those jurors says it influenced my verdict. How is this not prejudice, end quote. Murdaugh's fall from his role as an attorney lording over his small county to a sentence of life without parole has been exhaustively covered by true crime shows, podcasts, and bloggers. Jury tampering is the basis for Murdaugh's appeal, but Toal set a difficult standard for his lawyers. She ruled the defense must prove that potential misconduct by Hill directly led jurors to change their minds to guilty. So she's giving a completely different standard than what is usually the standard. She's making it a higher standard by saying that they had to have changed their minds and not just hear prejudicial information. So there's a big difference with that, which is what led her to not rule in favor of a new trial, I believe, and I think she was using too narrow of standards, in my opinion. All right, so the defense argued if they proved the jury was tampered with, it shouldn't matter whether a jury openly said their verdict changed because even subtle influence could have kept Murdaugh from getting a fair trial. Exactly. That's, like I said, we all have biases and we grow up with biases. You have them. Whether it's not a bad thing, it's just, it is what it is. You hear something like, oh my gosh, Alec's taking the stand. Can you believe it? Usually defendants don't take the stand. If you heard that, like some gossip going on and you're the juror, you're like, oh wow, I really should be paying attention to him. This is really unique. This is different. I should, something's different about this. Whatever it is, they're going to think certain things. Their brain processes it before they even know that they processed it. So it has an influence on your outcome. It just does. Toal also limited what could be asked of Hill, ruling out extensive questions about a criminal investigation into whether the elected clerk used her office for financial gain. emailed prosecutors with suggestions on how to discredit a defense expert, conspired with her son, who is charged with wiretapping county phones, or plagiarized part of her book on the case, using a passage from a BBC reporter who accidentally emailed her instead of her boss with a similar address. Quote, I'm very, very reluctant to turn this hearing about juror contact into a wholesale exploration about every piece of conduct by the clerk, end quote, said Toal. Hill, in a sworn affidavit, has denied any jury tampering. She did admit to lifting the writing of the BBC reporter, so to plagiarizing. She says, quote, I did plagiarize, and for that, I'm sorry, she said on the stand. Even if Murdaugh, 55, gets a new murder trial, he won't walk out free. He's also serving 27 years for admitting he stole $12 million from his law firm and from settlements he gained for clients on wrongful injury and life-ending injury lawsuits. So Murdaugh promised not to appeal that sentence as part of a plea deal. So he's not going to plea. I mean, he took a plea deal to not appeal any of the financial crimes. But Murdaugh has remained adamant that he did not unalive his younger son Paul with a shotgun and his wife Maggie with a rifle since the moment he told deputies he found them at their Colleton County home in 2021. He testified in his own defense. Even if this effort fails, Murdaugh hasn't. So this portion of the article was not written. It was written later. So if it did fail, he's not getting a new trial. But this is saying if the effort fails, Murdaugh hasn't even started the regular appeals of his sentence, where his lawyers are expected to argue a number of reasons why his trial was unfair, including the judge allowing voluminous testimony of his financial crimes. Yes, Judge Newman let in everything, and I had a real problem with that. As juicy as it was, and it was kind of fun to watch, but I mean, I think the trial was supposed to be like a 2-week trial, and it turned out being 6 because they let in all the financial crimes. So honestly, I mean, he already had his financial crimes trial. In my opinion, he was found guilty on that. Let's go back and retry him for Maggie and Paul, because I don't think we got to the actual details of what happened. And the prosecution still never, to me, they never painted the picture of what took place during those moments. And the things that they brought, their evidence, their theories that they did bring, they just didn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. And I'm not like a Murdaugh lover. I don't think the guy is anything great. He did some horrible things, but I just don't, I think that he was publicly shamed, humiliated, and, it was just a total assassination of character was his trial, in my opinion. And that's not what our justice system is supposed to be. So I really do believe that he is warranted a new trial. I think it should be the 2 weeks, no financial crimes or whatever, it should actually stick to the trial about Maggie and Paul, and not about the other crimes that he committed, and all the other bad acts that he committed, which weren't supposed to come in, but they did. So I don't know. What do you guys think? You can. I know a lot of people hate Murdaugh, and that's fine. But I just ask you to think about it from the perspective that this could be your father, your husband, your brother, you. It could be any single one of us. It doesn't have to be a man. It could be me. It could be any of us going through an unjust justice system, and that's not right. And we need to point out the flaws and the failures. And I definitely think that the justice system failed Alec Murdaugh yesterday. Although, an interesting theory that was brought up again on the Peter Tragos's lawyer, I really thought it was interesting. Somebody brought up the fact like maybe Judge Toal made this ruling so it could be thrown up to the higher courts because she said, let the higher courts decide. So they're obviously going to appeal this decision, Murdaugh's team, and it's going to go to a superior court. And at that point, they're going to look at Judge Toal. Like I think that that's what they were trying. What Judge Toal's plan was is to have it go up to a superior court where multiple justices are able to look at it and really evaluate it. I think she just didn't want to make a decision. I really do. Or I think she made the decision early on because she came out so quickly and threw the decision out there. And I think it was, yeah, she came back and after like all the closing arguments and everything, she came back in 15 minutes and ruled that she was going to deny the trial and she didn't find any wrongdoing, even though she found Becky being problematic and doing very distasteful, horrible things that no clerk of court should be doing. So I don't really know. This case has me feeling a lot of things. I'm like, it's like a roller coaster ride with this case, and let me know what you guys are thinking, feeling. It's crazy. Yeah, I feel right now there's so much going on with Murdaugh, with Delphi, with Idaho 4, and the case I'm covering, Canton cover up. There's so much corruption going on in these organizations, in our law enforcement, our justice systems. We need to pick them apart and look at them and make sure that someone's holding these people accountable. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So who's holding Becky accountable now? I mean, I know SLED is interviewing her, or SLED is investigating her, and the people who would be prosecuting her are the very same people that just prepped Becky into the answers that she gave yesterday so that she could uphold their guilty verdict on Alec. It's just conflict of interest everywhere. Everywhere, conflict of interest. So it just baffles my mind. I'm just so confused. If you guys can explain it to me as to why this makes sense, please do in the comments below. I hope you like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you join me next time. Have a good one. Bye.